Leading story, the tabling of the presidency budget vote descended into chaos on Thursday as the EFF refused to be addressed by President Cyril Ramaphosa, who they described as an alleged criminal. National Assembly Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula had her hands full as points of order were repeatedly raised by the Red Berets and at times by some from the governing party. For analysis on this story, I'm joined now by political analyst Ongama Mtimka. Very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, we were warned by the EFF. They kept speaking about the plan for what would transpire, reminding South Africans about Nkandla. What did you make of what played out?
Well, given the fact that the opposition in Parliament has got little in terms of numbers, in terms of what we call bums on seats, to be able to effect any change, it makes sense. I guess when it first started, it didn't make sense at all. I mean, we were very concerned about the decorum of Parliament. But as a political strategy to try and augment the power and effect of the opposition in Parliament, given the reality of limited numbers of consequences, I think it makes sense. It's like somebody who, resort to screaming and crying because they are overpowered by their enemy. And, that act is actually attempting to tilt the balance in a fight. So it's an inevitable outcome of the balance of power in Parliament.
Now, of course, we heard the President responding today, saying that he will not be responding to insults, and he's also been advised not to say much about the Phala robbery debacle. And, of course, there are still questions, and the investigation process, is what he says, should be allowed to transpire. But the questions remain. I mean, what does this now mean, and where does it place the President in the eyes of South Africans?
Look, across the world, presidents, when scandalous information, comes to light about them, resign. If you look at what happened in New Zealand, for example, one Minister of Health went out, to the beach during the lockdown, hard lockdown. When that information came to light, that person resigned. Unfortunately, in South Africa, it's not part of the political, the culture among senior leaders to fall on their swords once, they're fallen from grace, as it were. So the culture of smaller nyana skeletons makes it difficult for them to actually do the right thing, because they know that many people have done far worse things. So, for example, he keeps saying this thing that he didn't steal monies from the state, as though we should feel better about what looks like a potential scandal that is not being addressed at all by the answer that the money was proceeds of gain. It's the alleged activities to try and cover up and keep this matter hush-hush are not congruent with the claims that these were, legitimate proceeds. But so the point I'm making, Paul, is that it's inevitable in a situation where people with facing allegations remain in office, to not have opposition parties attempting to embarrass that person.
In efforts perhaps to keep the matter hush-hush, we also heard the President saying, and perhaps reminding members of Parliament about his track record, saying he has opened himself up for scrutiny in Parliament, and he also did so in the Zondo Commission.
That's good. That's good, but I don't. Politically, it's good, and in fact, it's the basis upon which I wrote an article recently that suggests that having made some gains politically, it may be best for President Cyril Ramaphosa, along with many ministers that have been in the NEC of the ANC since 1994, or many of them that have been there for such a long time, to actually give space to South Africa to build afresh without them. And I was saying, if they want to position the ANC among the organizations that can take the country forward, because the country is going to move forward whether with or without the ANC. If they want to also give the ANC a chance in that process to rebuild the country, I think that it's the best time for President Cyril Ramaphosa to be serious about thinking strategically about succession in ways that actually depart from the tradition of the ANC of looking at who is next in the food chain based on how close they have been to power in recent years. I think that the party needs to cast its eye wider than, especially the current NEC. Many of the people who are there do not even deserve to be there on the basis of the values of the party as enshrined in its own documents. So I don't know how a lot of them are contesting to become leaders. They've got Musasa, allegations. They've got allegations about being bribed by different companies. And yet they still believe that they are entitled to lead the party. I mean, it's an entitlement of a different kind to me. And I'm saying it's time that the country opens its leadership up to people who have more to achieve in democratic South Africa and see what they can contribute going forward as more important than their claims of we're sacrificed for you in the prime of our youth and therefore we must lead perpetually.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thanks for weighing in on this discussion. Political analyst Ongama Mtimka.